Welcome to C Programming Tutorials. This is a production of YouTube channel Learnorama and the Facebook page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would suggest that you please do so so that you can be notified of any new tutorials that I post as soon as I post them. And I would also recommend and appreciate if you become the fan of the Facebook page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn about two-dimensional arrays. We have been using one-dimensional arrays or the regular arrays, and we call them one-dimensional arrays, and we know how to declare them, how to access those elements. But in today's tutorial, we are going to learn about two-dimensional arrays, how to create them, how to access the individual elements, and how they are laid out in the memory and stuff. So let's get started. So we know that for one-dimensional array or the regular arrays that we have been using, what do? We declare them something like this, and the way we visualize them is something like this, like having a sequence of elements starting from 0 to all the way to 1 less than the total number of elements here, and the name of the array is A, and that represents an address itself. Okay, now just like this, if you extend this concept to two dimensions, this is just one dimension. It's like having only one length, right? Or having only one row, if you will. If you actually have multiple rows, like suppose this is a row and you have one more row and then one more row, and each row has multiple elements, which would basically end up in creating columns here, right? So something like this. So this actually creates a two-dimensional array. So, and this is how we visualize any two-dimensional array to look like. It has, you can say it has rows, row 0, 1, and 2, and each row is like an array itself, a one-dimensional array itself, and you could say that there are columns here, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this particular example, in this particular two-dimensional array, we have 3 rows and 5 columns. And the indices for rows and columns run from 0 to 1 less than the total number of rows for row, and for rows, and for columns it runs from 0 to 1 less than total number of columns. So an array like this, say its name is I don't know, my 2D. Let's say its name is my 2D. So my 2D array, its name is it will be declared as int, or whatever type that you want to declare it for, my 2D, and first you have to specify the total number of rows, which is 3, and then one more pair of square brackets specify the total number of columns, something like this. Okay, and this will declare this my 2D array in and we will visualize it like this. Now the memory itself is actually is a sequence of bytes. Okay, there are no dimensions to it, kind of, or there is only one dimension to it. So how does compiler actually represent it in the memory? This is what it does. It takes the first row and it stores that first. So 5 elements in that row from here to here. This represents the row number 0. Okay, the name my2d is actually the address of the first location. Okay, and then the second row comes into picture, or gets stored. The 5 elements of the second row, that's row number 1, and then the third row, row 3. Okay, so this is how a compiler actually ends up in storing or this two-dimensional array into one-dimensional memory, kind of. So that's outside the point. We will know why this is important to know when we will start doing pointers to two-dimensional arrays. But for now, this is essentially what it is. Now, how to access the individual elements of two-dimensional array? How did we access individual elements of one-dimensional array? For example, this one, we know if you have to access this one, you have to use the subscript 2, which is the element number 2 here for this array A, right? So this is how you access. So if you make it equal to 10, this actually stores 10 right here, okay? And if you make this one equal to 5, this will, oops, this will actually store 5 here. Similarly, if you have to store 6 here, this is how you do it. A of first the row number 1 and then the column number 2. These two together uniquely identify one of the elements or one of the integers in this one of the elements in this array. It doesn't have to be integer array, it could be any array, any type, okay? But all of those types, just like in one-dimensional array, all those elements have to be the same type, okay? And if I make it equal to 6, it will go and boom, store 6 right here. And if I want to make this guy 13, what I have to do is I have to write row number and then the column number and then make it equal to 13 and so on. So this is what two-dimensional arrays look like, and this is how you represent them. So let's write a little piece of code here. So let's declare this my 2D having, I don't know, 3 rows and 4 columns. And how do you access the individual elements? Okay, if you have to access the entire array, for example. For one-dimensional array, you needed one index variable to go through the entire this whole array. In 2D arrays, you need actually 2 indices, one for row and one for column. So you declare, let's see, int row comma column, okay? And then you run for loops, because rows actually go from 0 to 2 and then columns go from 0 to 4. So we have to run, two for loops. So for row is equal to 0, row is less than, how many elements are there? How many rows do we have? 3. So less than 3. In other words, the value of row would be 0, 1 and 2. Less than 3, not equal to 3. So row will never be 3. Okay, so the row plus plus, and then you have another loop for every row. For every row, you have to access, each column 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for row 1, we have to access 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. For row 2, you have to access 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we basically run another loop inside that loop, which changes column from 0 to all the way to whatever the maximum number of columns is, minus 1 or 1 less than that. So less than 4. So it will go from 0, 1, 2, 3. It will never be 4. So that's how the 4 columns would be accessed. And column plus plus. Now in this array is a little different from this picture drawn, because in this picture there are 5 columns. But to keep the thing simple, I'm doing this. And then say, I don't know, this way. So if you access the element row, column, you actually will be able to access the entire row, entire array. Okay. Now you could do whatever you want to do. You want to print the values of these elements. You could do that. If you want to assign some value to those elements, say 0. So if you want to initialize all of them to 0, you could do it this way. Okay. Even though it is easier to do it actually this way. And this will basically make the entire array 0. But suppose if you want to really let me stop here because we are running out of time, and we'll continue this tutorial in the next video. So don't forget to watch it. Thank you so much.